back to the channel, man. Welcome back. This is the Fly JV Gang, your favorite black pilot on YouTube. Let's get it. In today's video, I want to talk about something very important. I want to give you guys an explanation. I want to give you guys tips on acing your line training. I want to make it easy for you guys, and I want to give you everything that I've been through. I want to give you the advice that is necessary to give you the tools to be able to pass your line training easily. There's a lot of things you don't really know what to expect. There's a lot of things you're not really used to. I want to give you the tools and tips and advice to be able to make it easy for you and succeed. Line training, first of all, let's just get into what it is, okay? The line training is basically when you get into a new airline and you are not known by the people in the company. You've been hired, people know about your skill set from the interview and maybe the sim session you had to do before you got hired, but they don't know how you work in a real cockpit yet. They don't know how you work in a live environment. They want to know how you react to all these situations, all these new things that are thrown at you, and they want to train you as well to be able to recognize the line and everything you're going to be working in, right? So the first thing I can tell you about a line training is that you have to see it as an internship in a way. It's because you're only flying, first of all, with instructors, and second of all, at the beginning of your line training, you have a safety pilot with you that's here to make sure that you're flying in a way that is safe. He's a safety pilot. Make sure that you're flying in a way that is safe. So you're not really part of the company yet. You can't fly with anybody. You have to be scheduled in with people that are specific, and when you're done with the line training, that's when you're seen as a full member and a full pilot for the company. You can be flying with anybody else. You can be doing any type of line, any types of operation, and you can also be a safety pilot as well by yourself. So that's when you're done with the line training. The first things that I got to tell you about the line training is nothing you have to do with the skill set. It has to do with showing up. For the line training, the best advice I can give you is to show up at the pre-flight 2 hours before takeoff. Okay, because the reason why I'm telling you this is because showing up 2 hours before, first of all, it gives everybody else a good first impression of you because you're new, and it's like, okay, this guy shows up 2 hours earlier. He's obviously motivated. That's number one. Number two, it gives you a lot of time to prepare. When you go to the pre-flight, you have all these computers, you have all these paper documents that will help you be able to actually prepare your flight and have evidence that you've prepared your flight, and it will allow you to give a thorough breakthrough and a thorough briefing to your captain when he gets there. It's a given that, yeah, you do receive your OFP and everything that's related to the flight by email before, and you can do it at home, but that's not the point of the line training. The point of your line training is to show to the people there that you are able to work in a safe manner, that you're somebody who's efficient and who can work without somebody always holding his hand. And when that's established, that's when you're able to basically fly as a full-fledged pilot for your company, right? So that's that. So show up there 2 hours earlier, prepare everything, lay out all the papers out on the table, put them in an order, review everything you need to review, mark everything you need to mark, make notes, and prepare everything you need for the briefing when the captain gets there, right? And that's a good thing because it puts him at ease because he knows that you're somebody who knows what he's doing, and even if you don't know what you're doing at the beginning, because you're not supposed to at the beginning of line training, at least you're somebody who's proactive and who's always anticipating things before they happen. The worst thing you can have, the worst thing you can be as a pilot is somebody who's completely reactive. You wait for things to happen before you take action. You have to be somebody who's proactive. You have to anticipate things and take appropriate action. If something happens before, you know, okay, that's okay, but at least you prepare for situations as much as you can before they happen, if that makes sense. That's what being a pilot is all about. You have to anticipate things. You have to know what you will do if something happens. You can't just be reacting. You have so many people counting on you. You can't be rocking like that, my dude. Anyway, let's keep going. Now let's get into the meat of the subject. Now that we're done talking about getting there earlier and what you have to lay flat and what you have to expose to your captain, let's talk about actual points and tips that I can give you. The first thing that's important when you're into your line training is aircraft handling. You have to show the captain that you're flying with and every captain that you're going to be flying with, because the problem with the line training is you're going to be doing it with multiple captains and you have to be able to show them that you know how to fly the plane. There's something called the halo effect. The halo effect is something that keeps getting bigger and bigger because every time you do it well, the way people react to you increases, and so you want to keep it that way, so you keep improving yourself. So think about the halo effect, right? Every time you do something in the cockpit and it's well received, you want to keep doing it to strengthen that halo effect. So that's how you always have to operate. You want to either be better than you were before, or at least at the same level. It happens sometimes, of course. We're all human. Sometimes you will perform poorly. It happens from time to time, but don't let it become a habit. Always try to be improving and don't stress yourself out. I'm not saying that so that every night you should be like on your books like this. You shouldn't be doing that either, because that will make you worse, because stressing yourself out will make you perform badly. That's just how it is. You have to be relaxed, but not too relaxed. You have to be at the proper amount of arousal, right? So anyway, aircraft handling. You have to know how does your aircraft react on takeoff? How does your aircraft react at high altitude? How much pressure do you need to apply on the stick or on the yoke? This is all information that you can find into the FCTM of your aircraft, Flight Crew Technique Manual, and also in the FCOM that has to do with handling. So yeah, that's something that is very hands-on practiced, so I can't really tell you much about it, but it's everything from takeoff to landing and knowing the proper technique for landing, for takeoff, and for handling when you're in a high altitude where you know the aircraft is more sensitive and you have to be a little more careful. So just think about all these things and try to improve on them, okay? Next, now, you have SOPs. That's very, very important during your aircraft line training. During the line training, what they want to see is basically that you are studying enough and that you know what you're supposed to do in the aircraft when you're supposed to do it. The SOPs, it stands for Standard Operating Procedures. You have to know everything your role is supposed to do at any given moment. You can be PM, pilot monitoring, or PF, pilot flying. When you are at these different phases of flight, everything that he does is a trigger for something that you have to do, and everything that you do is a trigger for everything that he has to do. And the thing is, it's something that is learned based on role playing, basically. So if you fly with somebody that does not know his SOPs, it will show, because sometimes you will not have the triggers to do what you need to do. And it's difficult to fly a plane, a multi-pilot plane, when you're the only one doing the work, because if the other one doesn't trigger you to do your actions, you have to think for him as well, which takes away from the whole flying experience, because somebody has to be flying the aircraft, somebody has to know what is going on in flight and outside of the flight. So if everything that basically is going on in the cockpit is one of the pilots trying to account for everything that the other one is not doing, the flight is not as safe as it's supposed to be, and which is the reason why you have a safety pilot during the initial part of your line training. So if you want to get rid of that safety pilot fast, you're going to have to know your SOPs, and you're going to have to be safe. And to be safe, it means you know exactly what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, and it also means that you're able to fly the plane alone and land it safely in case you have a crew incapacitation. That's mainly what they do before they release you from having a safety pilot behind you. It's to check that you're able to land the plane by yourself, do all the checklists that you have to do, and they will put you in all kinds of scenarios and see what you would do if it did happen. They'll be, for example, in cruise, what would you do right now if we had an engine fire? What would you do right now if we had an engine failure? What would you do right now if you haven't did pressurization? Or sometimes you'll be in descent and the pilot will just be like, okay, well, I'm dead now. I want to see how you land this plane without me. You have to handle the radio, you have to handle the checklist, you'll have to handle the configuration of the airplane, you'll have to land it by yourself, arm the approach phase, do everything that you need to do to land safely at the airport. There you have it. That's SOPs. Go into your FCOM and read the SOP part, the Standard Operating Procedures for every phase of flight. You read them, you understand them, and if you've done your type rating, you should already know them. If you don't, read them from time to time. You don't have to read them every day. Read them from time to time and chair fly, visualize. You have to be at home before flight. You have to be at home when you have nothing to do sometimes. Just sit down, close your eyes, and imagine the cockpit in front of you, and imagine a role you want to be playing, and you do everything you need to do step by step. And that's how you will get better with the SOPs. It's the only way. It's through practice. You will get there by practicing in your brain, in your head at home, and you will get there by doing as many flights as possible and alternating as much as possible, because it's not good either during your line training, for example, and during flying in general, to just do only one role, because it takes away from the other role you're supposed to be playing as well if you don't do it for too long. Okay, let's move on to the other thing I want to talk about, which is aircraft knowledge. There's a lot of things that you need to know about the aircraft, and the big part of the line training is people, instructors, asking you questions about different things of the aircraft, to know your understanding of the aircraft, because there's a lot of complex problems when it comes to airliners, and all these complex problems are solved basically not only through knowing specifically how it works to solve that problem and following the ECAM procedures, but also through knowledge of the machine itself. Because if you know the machine, everything that you will be doing, even if you're following a standard procedure, will make sense to you, and that will make you faster and more confident in resolving that situation. Mainly, I'm talking about limitations of the aircraft, for example, maximum temperatures and things of that nature, maximum altitudes, minimum fuel you can have for takeoff, all these things, all these little things, you know, the speeds at which you can extend the flaps, the speed at which you can extend the gear, all these little things, you know. So you need to know all these things. You need to know about the hydraulic systems, the pneumatic system, the electric system, the air conditioning system of your aircraft. You need to understand how they work. You have to understand the correlation between all of them, and you don't have to sit down and learn everything by heart. If you do that, you're just a sheep and you do not understand what you're doing. The most important thing is to do it from time to time and to review it during your flights. When you're inside your flights, you have a system page. You have systems displays inside of your aircraft. You can review that during cruise and just try to like run scenarios through your head, try to understand how it works. That's how you have to work to be able to understand really your aircraft. A lot of things I know come from experience. You can't be rushing through these things if you want to understand, if you want to get better. But if you want to pass your line training fast, you have to just make sure that everything that is important has to be known. You know? Now let's move on to the next, line knowledge. A lot of bases, there's a lot of aerodromes you'll be flying to, and some things you just cannot do if you've never been to an aerodrome before. Okay, so the more and more you go to these different aerodromes, the more you will get used to everything the aerodrome has to offer, all kinds of approaches you can do, and you'll get more and more confident flying the plane manually, for example, when you get there. So that is something that you have no control over. You have to take your time and prepare the flight as thoroughly as possible before you get to it. If you see, for example, that tomorrow you're flying to this place and you've never been there, you pull out all the plates, you look at them, you look at your map, charts, airways charts, you look at, oh, what is it going to look like? Which FIRs, flight information regions, am I going to be flying through? Who am I going to need to contact? You take it into a little booklet. I have my little booklet, for example, with every frequency, for example, for every flight that I've done. And so I keep it handy. I don't need it anymore because I understand the lines that I'm flying now because I'm used to it. But I have it in handy just in case, for example, something happens, or it's just a day where I'm not rested, I forget. You know, I don't remember all the frequencies by heart, but most of them I know them now just from experience and flying. It comes with experience, okay? A lot of it is experience, and a lot of it is also proactiveness. You have to prepare as much as you can. The ILS approach. At what altitude are we going to stop? At what distance DME are we going to start descending from the ILS? What is the MDA? What is the barrel? You know, what is the decision altitude? What does the missed approach procedure look like? You know, which radio are we going to need to track outbound? What is the holding? What kind of entry is it going to be when I hold? Which altitude am I allowed to go down to? What's the MSA? 25 nautical miles away from the VOR, all around, you know? You have to know all these things. You have to be aware, basically, of what you're going to do, because safety is something that can never be stressed enough. If you're not safe and you're flying into IFR conditions, you can kill yourself so easily. Do you know what CFIT is? It means controlled flight into terrain. If you fly into a place you've never been before, obviously you have an instruction captain, but you also have to think outside of that. What if the captain was in capacity? What if there was no captain? It was just you. Are you safe enough? Do you know what you are doing enough? So always think about these things. But like I said, line knowledge only comes from enough flights. So you will fly as much as you can and learn as much as you can. Take as many notes as you can on a little notebook. Don't try to know everything by heart because you will forget it by 2 days later, man. I guarantee you that there's too much information that is being spewed during line training for you to be able to do all these things and not write anything. You need a little booklet. I have two. They're almost full, both of them. Limitations, frequencies, areas, airways, MSAs, elevations, techniques, of flying a certain way. I write them down, and so I can read them later. And the more I read them, the more it gets anchored inside of my brain. And that's the only way. We're humans. We're not a machine. You're not a computer. You can't just learn something by heart one time and that's over. You gotta practice. Next, flight optimization. Flight optimization is one of those things that is very important to impress line instructors, okay, during your training. It's not necessary, but it's helpful and it's better for the long run. Flight optimization has to do with saving as much fuel as you can and saving as much time as you can and making the operation as efficient as it can be. If I'm flying to the north and have runway 21 and runway 03, I'm going to take runway 03 because it's pointing to the north. If that's possible, I will ask the ATC. If that's possible, I will see what the wind is like. I have less than 10 knots tailwind, and let's go. We're going for runway 03 because we're going towards the north. It's that simple. During flight, can I have direct to this point? Can I have direct to the initial approach fix so I don't have to do all these zigzags and I can save fuel? Okay, instead of taking this runway, which is all the way and we're gonna have to taxi for 10 minutes, can I just use this runway and I'll just take off and turn as soon as I hit 1,000 feet AGL and go towards my destination? That will save time and that will thus save fuel because you won't be taxiing as much and you won't waste as much time. And so your passengers will be happy and you will be happy because you get to end your day faster, earlier. It's that simple. Flight optimization. Think about it as if you're driving a car. Be proactive. Think, how can I make this easier? How can I save as much fuel as possible? How can I make this safe? And how can I be as time efficient as I can? Fuel efficient, time efficient. Make it easier for everybody else. Everybody wants to go home. You want to go home, the flight attendants want to go home, and the passengers want to go home. Let's make it so. So quick bullet points and a recap of the video. Be at the pre-flight 2 hours before the flight to be able to review everything and brief your captain. Know about your aircraft handling. You can check that out on the FCOM and the FCTM. Know your standard operating procedures, the SOPs. Know the knowledge relative to your aircraft. Limitations, hydraulics, pneumatics, electrics, and air conditioning. Learn about phraseology for the radio, for broadcasts, and for relays. And also one more thing that I need to add about radio is you have to keep your ears open. You have to be able to be aware and situationally aware of everything that is being said on frequency, because sometimes your captain will miss something, and if he misses something, you have to show him that you've been listening and know what is going on. Even if you're a pilot flying and everything is being said to him and he's the one reading back, you have to be the one who is understanding the information and putting into the aircraft the information that is necessary. For example, if they tell you to climb to flight level 370 and you're the pilot flying, you're going to be the one who is going to be on the MCP or on the glare shield putting in that altitude. It looks bad if everything that is being said is just the pilot monitoring, reading back, and you like expecting for him to tell you what has been said. You have to be listening actively even if you're flying the plane. That's very important. Line knowledge. Remember about the line knowledge. Everything you're going to be doing flying to new aerodromes is going to help you get more and more familiar and you'll be able to access as many types of approaches in these different aerodromes and show people in your airline that you're getting used to it and that you're basically ready to be able to fly by yourself with a normal captain and with anybody else. Flight optimization, like I said, make it as fuel and time efficient as possible by using everything that you can in your arsenal, runway, direct points, etc., etc. Do not rush. Like I said, never rush. Some things are only learned through experience. There's things that you will learn only through years, and there's things that you will learn only when it happens to you in a real flight, and the emergency that it brings you inside of your heart during that flight will make you go home and look into it more. But if you read everything theoretically from home in the FCOM and the FCTM and you learn everything by heart, you're not actually a good pilot, you're just somebody who's learning things and regurgitating them. It's not going to make you better at executing anything at all, especially if it's never happened to you before. You need to have a mix between practice and theory. Anyway, guys, that was me. Thank you very much for watching my video. Like I said, I'm the only one making these videos. I film them, I edit them, I do everything by myself, so it would mean a lot to me if you would like the video, comment, subscribe to me, and follow me on social media. You can find my Instagram and my Twitter on the bottom left of that video. And so, like I said again, thank you very much for watching. This was Flight JV, and I'm out.